I need you to stay for a moment, because if you leave too early, you might never hear the sentence I should have said long ago, and I'm beginning to understand that some silences cost more than failure ever could. There are things I know how to build, rockets, systems, companies people said were impossible. I know how to take chaos and give it structure. I know how to stare at a wall everyone else calls permanent and find the weak point in it. But you were the first thing in my life that could not be solved by force, and that frightened me more than losing money, more than public humiliation, more than watching something explode on the launch pad after years of work, because machines obey logic. Love does not. I made this for one person, only one, and if you're hearing these words, then maybe the universe still allows small miracles, because I thought I had already missed my chance. Do you know what it feels like to realize the most important person in your life may quietly become a memory while you're busy being admired by strangers? That's a particular kind of pain. People assume men like me are fearless. They see momentum. They see headlines. They see certainty. But certainty is often costume. Sometimes confidence is just panic, wearing expensive clothes. The truth is, I have stood in rooms full of powerful people and felt less exposed than I do speaking to you right now, because none of them could reject me in the way you could. None of them could look at me softly and make me feel suddenly transparent. You probably don't know this, but there were nights I replayed conversations with you, like mission data, every pause, every smile, every time your voice changed when you said my name, trying to calculate whether there was something there, or whether I had invented the entire thing, because lonely men can mistake warmth for destiny. Have you ever done that? Have you ever pretended not to care, because caring felt too dangerous? Have you ever smiled politely, while grieving something that never officially began? That's a strange funeral, isn't it? No flowers, no witnesses, just two people acting normal while something beautiful is buried alive between them. I told myself timing was wrong. I told myself life was complicated. I told myself I needed to finish one more launch, one more meeting, one more impossible task before I could deserve something gentle. But deadlines multiply, work expands, and people we love do not wait forever. That is the equation nobody teaches ambitious men. I wonder sometimes how many women have been hurt by men who were not cruel, only distracted. There's damage done by malice, and then there's damage done by hesitation. I'm not sure which one leaves deeper scars. You were never asking for grand gestures. That's what I misunderstood. I thought love had to be dramatic to be real. I thought if I couldn't arrive with fireworks, certainty, permanence, then I should arrive with nothing at all. But maybe you would have accepted honesty. Maybe you would have accepted, I'm scared, but I'm here. Maybe you would have accepted a flawed man trying, and instead, I gave you fragments. Do you know what regrets look like when they age? They become questions. Would she have stayed if I had spoken sooner? Would she have trusted me if I had been simpler? Would she have loved me if I had been less divided between the world and my own heart? I'm asking you something difficult now. When a woman goes quiet, is it because she no longer feels, or because she felt too much for too long alone? I still don't know. I've learned that silence from a woman can mean many things. Peace, wisdom, protection, exhaustion, goodbye. And I don't know which silence yours became. If this reaches you, maybe you're sitting somewhere calm. Maybe the light is soft. Maybe life has continued the way life always does, without waiting for unfinished stories. Maybe someone kinder than me now knows how you take your coffee, what sadness sounds like in your breathing, what makes you look away when emotion gets too close. That thought should make me happy for you. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it destroys me, because mature love is not possession. I know that. Wanting your happiness even if it excludes me, that is adulthood. But wanting it and surviving it are not the same skill. You should know something else. I almost made a different choice. I almost convinced myself that affection from the wrong person was enough simply because it was available, that convenience could replace connection, that admiration could replace understanding, that being wanted by someone else would silence what I felt for you. It didn't. It only made your absence louder. And if you've ever watched a man choose the wrong woman, understand this. Sometimes he is not choosing her. He is choosing anesthesia. There's a difference. If you've stayed with me this long, maybe some part of you still believes in unfinished things. If so, subscribe quietly and stay close for a little while longer, and tell me where in the world you're listening from. Maybe distance is not as powerful as we think. There is more I have to say, and none of it is easy, because I haven't told you the real reason yet. Not why I disappeared, not why I hesitated every time it mattered, not why, even now, speaking your name in my mind feels like standing too close to fire. I need you to understand something before I say it. The greatest myth about strong men is that they fear failure. No, We fear being truly known, and then left anyway, so we perform competence. We become useful, impressive, necessary. We become men people rely on, because being relied on feels safer than being loved. Love can be withdrawn, usefulness can be renewed. And somewhere inside all the building, all the movement, all the noise, I became a man who could command thousands, and still struggle to send one honest message to one woman. You. There was a night I almost called. My hand was on the phone. Your name was there. I imagined your voice answering with warmth, or worse, with indifference. I could survive rejection. I wasn't sure I could survive hearing that you had already healed. So I did nothing. And sometimes doing nothing is the most violent decision a person can make, because while I was protecting my ego, time was making choices for both of us. Tell me honestly, how many chances die, not because love was absent, but because courage was? I think I'm about to learn the answer. There is something humiliating about becoming successful before becoming honest. People congratulate the visible victories. They celebrate the companies, the numbers, the impossible milestones. They assume the man standing at the center of that storm must be fulfilled, but no one applauds the private losses. No one sees the message unsent. No one sees the chair across the table that stayed empty because pride arrived first. No one sees the woman a man still compares everyone else to, while pretending he has moved on. And if I'm speaking carefully tonight, it's because I know you are no longer the same woman I once knew. Time changes elegance into wisdom. Pain changes kindness into boundaries. Waiting changes hope into standards. You may not be available to hear this the way you once would have been. That is one of the prices I earned. I used to think love would wait if it was real, that if two people were meant for each other, life would preserve the opportunity like some protected file in the universe. That belief is childish. Love is not preserved. Love is perishable. Neglect it, and it spoils quietly. Ignore it, and someone else learns how to care for what you mishandled. Tell me, has someone learned you better than I did? Does someone now notice when your smile is polite instead of sincere? Does someone understand the version of you that only appears after disappointment? Does someone reach for your hand without needing to be taught? There are questions a man asks when he is late, and I am late. I need to confess something that will make me smaller in your eyes, but truth often does that before it sets anything free. When I sensed I was losing you, I did not move closer. I moved elsewhere. I surrounded myself with noise, attention, options, distraction. I accepted conversations with women who admired the image of me because it was easier than facing the one woman who knew the human cost of that image. I let myself be wanted where I did not feel seen. Do you understand how empty that is? To be desired by people who love the surface, while longing for the one person who asked about the machinery underneath. There was one woman in particular, beautiful, intelligent, available in all the ways life often rewards cowards. She wanted certainty from me, and I almost gave it to her, because certainty can be manufactured when desperation is involved. I nearly chose a future that looked correct. Have you ever watched someone build a beautiful prison? That was me. I could have married applause. I could have spent years beside someone kind enough, impressive enough, suitable enough, while slowly dying beside the absence of truth. And the most dangerous part? Everyone would have congratulated me. That is how wrong decisions survive, public approval. But every time I imagined that life, there was something missing that I could not engineer. Relief, peace. That deep exhale a person feels when they are beside the one they do not need to perform for. I only ever felt that possibility with you. Not because you worshipped me, because you didn't. You challenged me without humiliating me. You saw flaws without exploiting them. You had that rare strength mature women sometimes carry, the ability to remain soft without becoming weak. Do you know how uncommon that is? The world creates many clever people, very few safe ones, and you were safe in a way that terrified me, because safety invites surrender. You could have loved the version of me I was hiding from everyone else. That meant I would have to meet him too, so instead, I delayed. I intellectualized emotions. I called confusion timing. I called fear responsibility. I called avoidance complexity. Men rename cowardice when they want to keep respecting themselves. I'm done doing that. The real reason I disappeared was not workload, not pressure, not circumstance. It was this. I believed if you knew how divided I was, how ambitious, how restless, how damaged, how emotionally inexperienced, despite all my years, you would eventually leave. So I tried to control the ending by never fully beginning. Ride that again in your heart. I tried to control the ending by never fully beginning. How many relationships die there? How many women stand in front of men who seem unavailable, never realizing those men are not withholding love? They are withholding exposure? You probably felt it. You probably sensed I was near and far at the same time. present in body, absent in risk, interested but defended, warm then unreachable, and I imagine that must have been exhausting. If so, I am sorry in a way words cannot complete. There is another truth. I kept believing I had more time, because you were graceful, you were patient, you did not force ultimatums, you did not dramatize your needs, and foolish men often mistake a calm woman for a woman who will stay forever, but calm women leave too. They simply leave quietly. Was that what happened? Did you leave me internally long before I noticed externally? Did you mourn us while I was still assuming there would be another chance? There are losses that happen in two stages, first in her heart, then in his awareness. The gap between those stages can ruin a man. I think it nearly ruined me. I started hearing your absence in ordinary moments, in airports, in hotel rooms, in successful days that felt strangely sterile, in celebrations that ended with no one I truly wanted to tell first. That is when success becomes haunted, when the person whose reaction matters most is no longer in your life. And yet even then, I hesitated, because reaching out late requires a special kind of humility. You must accept she may have healed, she may have changed, she may have loved again, she may hear your apology as nostalgia, she may owe you nothing, and still, you must speak. I wasn't ready. Then something happened that forced me to become ready. I saw a photograph, just one. You were standing beside someone I didn't know. You looked peaceful, not excited, not performative. Peaceful. Do you know what peace in a woman's face can do to a man who once disrupted it? It can make him realize someone else may have done what he refused to do. Stay. That image has lived with me ever since. Maybe he was no one important. Maybe he was a colleague, a friend, a stranger caught in a frame. Or maybe he was the man I trained you to accept after me, and I still don't know which possibility hurts more. I need you to stay with me a little longer, because what happened after that photo changed everything. I stared at that photograph longer than I should admit, not because of him, because of you. There was a calmness in your eyes I had never earned, a settled quality, the kind of peace that usually arrives after someone has survived disappointment and decided never to live there again. I recognized it immediately. Women do not wear that expression by accident. It is built slowly, through nights of accepting what a man will not say, through mornings of pretending patience is enough, through the private moment she finally chooses herself and does not announce it. You looked like a woman who had crossed a bridge and burned it behind her, and for the first time in my life, urgency was not professional, it was personal. I have known countdown clocks, launch windows, deadlines where millions were at stake, crisis calls at impossible hours. Those things sharpen the mind, but this was different. This sharpened regret, because I realized something brutal. If another man had brought you peace, then I had no moral right to interrupt it. Simply because I arrived late carrying feelings, love does not grant ownership, history does not grant access, missing someone does not entitle you to disturb the life they built without you, so I did what cowards do when conscience and desire collide. I delayed again. I told myself I was being noble, respectful, mature, but underneath all those elegant words was a simpler truth. I was afraid he might be better for you than I ever was. Can a man love a woman deeply and still fear the answer to that question? Yes, every day. I imagined him noticing things I missed. I imagined him calling when I went silent. I imagined him choosing presence over performance. I imagined him making ordinary promises and keeping them. And what wounded me most was this. He would not need to be extraordinary to surpass me. He would only need to be consistent. Do you understand how devastating that is for a man who built his identity on being exceptional? To learn that in love, consistency often defeats brilliance. I could design systems for the future and still fail at the ancient skill of showing up. There were nights I almost convinced myself to let you go completely. I rehearsed noble speeches in my own mind. If she is happy, disappear. If she is loved, be grateful. If she healed, do not reopen anything. Those lines sound wise, but wisdom spoken from fear is often surrender in formal clothing, because another voice kept returning. What if she is not happy? What if she still wonders why? What if silence from you was not indifference, but self-respect? What if the one thing she needed was not perfection, but honesty, finally delivered? I lived between those voices so long that sleep became negotiation. Have you ever argued with yourself until sunrise? Have you ever defended someone and resented them in the same breath? Have you ever loved a person enough to release them, and not enough to stop reaching inwardly for them? That was my mind, a battlefield no one could see. Then came the night everything nearly ended. I was alone after a successful day that should have felt triumphant. People had praised me. Numbers were strong. Cameras were kind. The world from the outside was cooperating. Inside I was collapsing. I returned to a room so quiet it felt accusatory. Success can be loud in public and merciless in private. There was no one there who knew the version of me that trembles after applause fades. No one there who knew that admiration can feel colder than intimacy. No one there who would look at me and ask the only question that mattered. Are you actually okay? You would have asked that, and I knew it. I sat in the dark and understood something that frightened me more than losing you. I was becoming the kind of man who could win everything except the life he truly wanted. That realization breaks something, because if achievement cannot save you from emotional emptiness, then what exactly have you been sacrificing for? I wish I could tell you I handled that moment with dignity. I didn't. I broke quickly, completely, without witnesses, no dramatic scene, no shattered glass, no grand gesture. Just a grown man sitting in silence, grieving years of avoidable distance. I said your name out loud once, then again, as if repetition could summon courage retroactively. I thought about every version of us that died from delay, the dinner I never asked for, the trip we never took, the apology I never sent, the hand I never reached for when you might still have allowed it. People think heartbreak is one event. Sometimes it is an archive. Then I did something I should have done long before. I wrote to you, not polished, not strategic, not clever. Real, I told you. I had hidden behind competence. I told you I confused motion with meaning. I told you I nearly chose another woman, because being chosen felt easier than choosing honestly. I told you I was sorry for making you carry ambiguity I created. I told you that if peace had found you, I would not try to steal it. But if any small unfinished space remained in your heart, I would meet it without armor this time. My hand shook before sending it. Imagine that. A man unafraid of explosions, afraid of one message. I sent it, then came the longest hours of my life. No market can teach patience like waiting for the truth from one woman. Minutes became verdicts. Silence became prophecy. I checked the screen too often, then hated myself for checking. I walked the room like movement could influence outcome. I imagined every possibility, you deleting it, you laughing, you crying, you forwarding it to someone else, you reading it twice, you staring at the ceiling, you whispering. Too late. That phrase nearly destroyed me before you ever said anything. Too late. Two small words with the power to bury entire futures. Morning arrived, still nothing. And in that silence, I had to face the punishment I deserved. You might owe me no closure at all. That is the consequence many men never consider. They think apologies guarantee access. They think remorse earns response. It doesn't. Sometimes the most mature thing a woman can do is let a man sit inside the silence he created. I thought that was happening. I thought I had finally reached the end of my own story with you. Then the phone lit up. Your name, one line, only 6 words. We need to talk. Tonight. In that moment, every possible future opened, and one of them was losing you forever face to face. I looked at those 6 words until they stopped feeling like language and started feeling like gravity. We need to talk tonight. No emojis, no softness, no reassurance. Just precision, the kind mature women use when emotion has already been processed privately, and what remains is decision. I knew enough about life to understand this could mean 2 opposite things. It could be the doorway back, or the formal closing of it forever. And what terrified me was that I had finally become brave, only after losing the right to control the outcome. That is when courage becomes real, when it arrives too late to guarantee reward. All day I moved through obligations like a man underwater. Meetings happened. Voices spoke. Numbers were discussed. People believed I was present because I answered correctly, but internally I was somewhere else entirely. With you. With every possible version of the evening waiting ahead. Would you be warm? Would you be composed? Would you thank me for my honesty and release me gently? Would you tell me there was someone else? Would you tell me you had once loved me deeply and no longer did? There are truths people claim they want until the hour comes to hear them. I wanted yours. I was afraid of surviving it. I arrived early. Of course I did. Men who make women wait often become obsessed with punctuality once consequences appear. I chose a quiet place. Not impressive, not strategic, just private enough for truth. Then I saw you, and something happened that I did not expect. You were even more beautiful than memory, but not because of appearance, because memory freezes people. Life deepens them. There was more steadiness in your face now, more discernment, more self-possession.